Welcome back to Dr. Sellers Educate. We're happy that you're back. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, go ahead and do that right now. That way you'll be alerted every single time there's a new episode, which usually happens every week. If you haven't purchased your resources as part of your journey towards certification, we recommend that you do that right now. There is additional information listed in the description, but we want you to make sure you go ahead and print out your NLN CNE Candidate Handbook. Okay, that's the first step. NLN website is going to be your best resource to answer any questions that you have about the certification exam. They also have an email address and a phone number available to you if you have additional questions. Second, you want to purchase Billings and Halstead Teaching and Nursing. 6th edition is the current edition, as well as Dr. Caputi's review book, 2nd edition. These are the 3 resources that you're going to need to start you on your journey towards success. All right, so without further delay, let's go ahead and jump into our content for this episode. We're continuing to hear feedback from nurse educators about the difficulty of exam questions associated with item analysis. So we're going to talk about that during this episode. If you are not aware, we do offer a monthly boot camp. In the month of May, we will continue to talk about item analysis and how do you make sure that you are closing all of those gaps that you need to before you sit for the exam. That's a very common question that we get, and we'll be talking about that during our upcoming boot camp. If you are not familiar with content that we're going to talk about during this episode, we don't want you to feel overwhelmed, okay? We want you to just sit back, take this information all in as we talk through each element of our focus today, which is centered around identifying levels of learning based on the sample test statistic analysis that you will receive. Hopefully, you're using software to help you calculate and quantify the statistics analysis. Second, you're going to be able to describe some concepts of measurement and data analysis that you will use to analyze test results. The levels of learning from analyzing test data are what we call 3 Ds and 1Q. The first D is looking at difficulty. What is the difficulty? That is calculated based on the p-value in the software, the statistical software that looks at exam analysis and how students have performed. So when we look at difficulty, the p-value range that we know for our students' level of difficulty, again, us looking at those students that have performed well, did they answer the question correctly? So that range is going to be anywhere from less than 30%, which indicates a high level of difficulty, all the way up to greater than 80%. Okay, so the average is going to be somewhere between 70 to 80% or 0.7 to 0.8 that you will see on the item analysis report. So our goal is to be somewhere between 70 to 80%. Again, it's going to indicate average level of difficulty. The second D is discrimination. Do the options discriminate? What we're looking for is the differentiation between those high-performing students who are very knowledgeable about the content and those low-performing students. That is calculated based on a point by serial index. The third component that we want to look at are going to be the distractors. Were the distractors effective? For the 3 options that were incorrect, what percentage of students chose those options as opposed to the one that was correct? The fourth component and the lone Q that we talk about is quality. Should we keep the question? Okay, so that's the 4th level of questioning that you want to consider as you take a look at your exam analysis components from your report that you will receive. When we conduct our item analysis, there are several different concepts of measurement, is what we call them, associated with our ability to validate if it was a good exam. Okay, that's essentially what we're looking at. And so reliability is just one component that we want to take a deeper look at to round out our snapshot for this episode. Reliability is defined as the ability to produce authentic results. It measures the ability of the exam to produce dependable and consistent outcomes. It is measured based on a scale from 0 to 1.0. And it may be reported through Cronbach's Alpha or the KR Richardson, Kuta Richardson, which is known as the KR20. Good test reliability is going to be anywhere within the range of 0.7 to 0.89. Okay, that is seen as acceptable to a good range. Poor test reliability is going to be less than 0.70, and excellent is going to be anything above that 0.90 range. Okay, it's going to indicate that we have developed a very solid, valid, authentic, reliable exam. To wrap up our episode, we want to take a look at an example of an item analysis data point that is pulled from the test development software. Now, there are many concepts and components of the report, but these are just a few that we want to review again to introduce or reintroduce to some of you concepts that you want to consider. First is that p-value, the difficulty. All right, so remember we talked about the range. 0.65 is going to indicate that it was a fairly difficult question, right? Because anywhere between a 0.3 to a 0.8 is going to indicate that it was difficult. So you want to consider that as you look at the number of students that were successful on this exam, which equates to 65%. Okay, so that means that 65% of the students answered this question correctly. And we see here the additional breakdown. The correct answer was C, so the p-value is 0.65, and then the point by serial index is going to be 0.36. Okay, again, looking at the discrimination between those high-performing students and the low-performing students. With our discrimination or the point by serial index, we would expect that to be satisfactory level is anywhere around greater than 0.15. That's seen as satisfactory. And excellent discrimination is when we are approaching 0.40. Okay, so this is certainly acceptable to be within the 0.36 range. All right, well, we appreciate you joining us for this episode. If you want to take a deeper dive into looking at exam analysis, we would love to see you in our monthly boot camp. Until next time, this has been Dr. Sellers Educate. Thank you for your time today, and we'll see you in the next episode.